My friend Tom is such a crazy sock knitter that we call him the Sockinator. He has a wonderful loom knitting group on Facebook called Socks a la Loom, in which he is leading a knit along. To make sure that we have enough support materials for new sock knitters, I'm adding to my Sockumentaries list. All of the Sockumentaries will be useful to you, but the ones that begin with this intro are specifically designed to help with Tom's knit along. I've completed my ribbing, and it's time to go on to the main piece of sock top, which I'm going to do in regular knit stitch. But before we go on, I want to show you something very easy. A lot of people say, oh, I can't keep track of my rows. I lost track, now I'll have to frog it. Oh, that is just crazy. You don't have to frog it. I don't count my rows perfectly either, but you can count them after the fact. Each of these little openings, this one is around the peg, and the next one is below it. Each of them is a stitch. 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know I did 6 rows. The first little twist, which may be hard for you to spot, that made a complete loop that we knitted through, that's the cast on, so I don't count that one. So if I had lost count, I could just do what I showed you just now and make the other sock match. You do not have to frog. There's another way to do it. You could count these. What we're looking at here, these are the purl stitches. And each purl stitch makes a little heart-shaped something. Let me try to draw one for you. They make like a chain of hearts. Actually, it's the knit stitch side that does that. But when we look inside the loom, we see the back. So the purls are making hearts on the back. Let's see if we can get this down enough that you can see. The knits are making the heart shapes on the front. Now on the back of a knit stitch, you just get a little strand of yarn. So you could count those, or you could count the holes between them. Don't panic and frog all your work. That is crazy. Now, I'm going to knit the top of the sock. Oh, one more thing I wanted to show you. People also lose track of where they started, but there's no need. That's where I started. Obviously, I made my loop, hung it on the peg, and you can see the yarn tail. It comes up to here, and I know my first stitch was a knit stitch, so I can double check which was the knit and which was the purl. There's the purl, that's the knit, that's peg number 1. So in case I lost track or got crazy, I could still figure it out. And now we're just going to do knit stitches round and round, whatever version of knit stitch you like, until the sock top is the length you want. As we've already discussed, I like the U-stitch for this. There is a stitch that we haven't discussed that is often called the true knit stitch, and I want to be clear on that. That's a perfectly okay term, but that implies that the other knit stitch versions are not true knit stitches, and I don't agree that that's the case. When my knitting comes off the loom, it's going to look exactly like a hand-knitted knit stitch, or a machine-knitted knit stitch for that matter. The difference in all the ways of forming them usually is how tight the stitch comes out. Flat stitch being the tightest, U-stitch in between, and I really can't speak to the true knit. I think it's the loosest of them, but I don't use it, so I can't say from personal experience. Now the very loosest is E-wrap stitch, and it does not look identical to the way most people hand knit stocking stitch or stockinette because it has a twist in it. There is a twisted stockinette stitch in use in hand knitting, and our E-wrap stitch looks just like that, but it doesn't look just like the plain one. So right now we're working on the sock top. It can be any length we want up to a point. If you want knee socks, most of us are going to need a bigger top to accommodate our calves, and so we would have needed to plan for some shaping.
but I can go anywhere from an inch, which would be sort of like a tennis sock, an inch of sock top, up to 6 or even 8, depending on the height of the wearer, without needing to shape. I'm not going to go with 8. I'll probably go somewhere in between as the spirit moves me. I will just wait and see what I think, but I think I'm going to make a medium length sock top. I want it to cover my ankles because it's winter and I want my socks to be warm, but I don't need it to double over or come way high up, and I'm not very tall. So I'll keep knitting, you keep knitting, and we will meet up when it's ready to do the heel.